Every breath you take, every thought you form, every moment of joy or despair you've ever experienced, none of it was supposed to happen. Not because it was wrong, not because it was a mistake, but because the universe never had a supposed to in the first place. You, me, everyone who's ever lived, we're not children of intention, we're not products of love, or not even accidents, because accidents implies something went wrong. We are echoes of a process that doesn't know we exist, temporary patterns in something vast, something ancient, something that will continue long after your name is forgotten. And here's what no one wants to hear. That's not the tragedy. The tragedy is spending your entire life demanding an apology that will never come. The tragedy is looking up at the stars and screaming why, when the stars have no capacity to answer. The tragedy is building your entire identity around the assumption that someone, somewhere intended for you to exist, and then falling apart when you realize no one did. Look around you right now. The walls, the air, the device in your hand, none of it cares that you're conscious. None of it organized itself for your benefit. Atoms arrange themselves into your body the same way they arrange themselves into rust on metal. Same chemistry, same indifference, same natural law. The carbon in your bones was forged in a dying star billions of years ago. That star didn't know you would exist. It didn't sacrifice itself for you. It simply exhausted its fuel and exploded, scattering elements across the void. Some of those elements eventually became you. Magnificent, yes. Intentional? No. You want to believe you're special, that consciousness makes you exempt from the rules that govern rocks and rivers, but your brain is just electricity moving through meat. Beautiful meat, complex meat, but meat nonetheless. The universe didn't sculpt you with purpose any more than it sculpted the Grand Canyon with architectural intent. Water flows downhill. Chemicals self-organize. Consciousness emerges. No applause, no intention, no cosmic acknowledgement. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. You've been taught, by religion, by culture, by the very structure of language itself, that meaning comes from somewhere, from God, from destiny, from the universe speaking to you. But the universe doesn't speak. It doesn't even know languages exist. It doesn't celebrate your victories. It doesn't mourn your losses. Your greatest achievement and your deepest trauma are equally invisible to the cosmic machinery. The promotion you worked years for, the person you loved who left, the child you raised, the art you created, all of it matters immensely to you. And that's real, that's valid. But to the universe, it's the same as a pebble rolling down a hillside. Motion, rearrangement, continuation, nothing more. Now observe something simple. A tree growing in the forest. Watch how its roots crack through stone, how its branches twist toward light, how its bark scars and splits and heals in patterns that will never repeat. Is any of that symmetrical? Is any of it perfect? Is any of it designed according to some blueprint? No. And yet, it's breathtaking. Nature doesn't commit aesthetic errors. It doesn't strive for beauty. It is beauty, even when it destroys, even when it decays, even when it kills. A forest fire isn't ugly, it's terrifying, it's destructive, but watch the way flames consume dead wood, the way ash enriches soil, the way new growth explodes in the aftermath. A decomposing animal isn't a failure. Look closer at the ecosystem thriving in that death. Beetles, bacteria, fungi, an entire universe of life celebrating what we recoil from. A mudslide reshaping a mountain isn't a failure, it's geology in motion, the earth perpetually reinventing itself without concern for what existed before. These are just our judgments, human preferences projected onto a canvas that never asked for our critique. What we call beautiful is just what we've evolved to recognize as useful or safe. Symmetrical faces suggest genetic health. Lush landscapes suggest resources. Clear water suggests safety. What we call ugly is just what threatens our survival or violates our pattern recognition. But the universe doesn't deal in beautiful or ugly, it deals in what is. The flower blooms because chemical signals trigger cellular responses. The insect devours because hunger is a biological imperative. The fungus spreads because that's what fungal networks do. The bacteria celebrates what we call disease. For the rose, it's decay, wilting, death. For the fungus, it's feast, an explosion of growth, abundance beyond measure. Nothing is wrong here, nothing is broken. The world operates as a silent war where no one is the villain and no one is the hero. Every organism consumes. Every organism is consumed. This isn't evil, this is ecology. If there were no predators, prey populations would explode until they devoured all available resources and then collapse into mass starvation. If there were no scarcity, if everything had unlimited access to everything, abundance would become lethal. Species would overrun ecosystems, balance would shatter. Death would come anyway, just slower and more agonizing. Balance doesn't emerge from peace, it emerges from constant, relentless conflict. The harmony of nature is built on continuous suffering, and that's not beautiful in a greeting card way, in an Instagram quote way, in a way that makes you feel good, but it's real, it's honest, it's what actually is beneath all our stories about how things should be. Here's the perspective shift that breaks most people. If you were a rabbit, the fox would be a demon, a creature of pure malevolence that exists only to end your existence. If you were a farmer, the locusts would be evil incarnate, a plague, a punishment, a force of destruction that devastates everything you've built. If you were a virus, the immune system would be genocide, an overwhelming military force dedicated to your complete extinction. But none of these entities are wrong. The fox isn't evil, it's just hungry. The locust isn't malevolent, it's just eating. The virus isn't attacking, it's just reproducing. They're just fulfilling their function in a system that has no referee, no judge, no cosmic authority determining right from wrong. We call this injustice, this cruelty, this evil, but these are just words we invented because we picked a side. We chose to be human, and from that position, certain things help us and certain things harm us. We called the helpful things good and the harmful things bad, the things that nurture us righteous and the things that threaten us wicked. Then we convinced ourselves these categories were cosmic truths instead of survival strategies. We projected our perspective onto the universe and called it morality. The universe doesn't take sides. It can't. It doesn't have the capacity. Right now, inside your intestines, millions of bacteria are waging war. Some help you digest food, breaking down nutrients you couldn't access otherwise. Others try to breach your defenses, attempting to spread into tissues where they'll cause infection. You don't feel it, you don't suffer from it, you don't take sides in each microscopic battle, choosing which bacteria to root for, because that war keeps you alive. The conflict is the health, the struggle is the system functioning correctly. Now, zoom out. Imagine you're the universe looking at Earth. Pandemics sweep across continents, extinctions erase entire species, wars consume generations, famines devastate populations. At the human level, these are tragedies, unspeakable tragedies, each one containing millions of individual stories of loss, pain, fear, grief, real suffering, undeniable suffering. At the cosmic level, they're adjustments, rebalancing, population corrections, resource redistribution. The same process that governs your gut bacteria governs civilizations. The same principles that maintain your body's equilibrium maintain planetary equilibrium. This doesn't console, it doesn't redeem, it doesn't excuse, it doesn't make the suffering less real or less terrible, but it explains. It provides context that our emotions can't access when we're drowning in the immediacy of pain. Some people say evil is an illusion, that suffering is just a perception error, that if we could see from a high enough vantage point, we'd realize nothing bad ever really happens. That's spiritual bypassing. That's philosophical cowardice dressed up as enlightenment. Evil, or what we call evil, is structurally necessary. If there were no harm, there would be no choice. If there were no pain, there would be no consciousness of relief. If there were no loss, there would be no appreciation of presence. If there were no death, there would be no urgency to life. The error isn't in feeling anger when you witness cruelty. The error isn't in feeling grief when you experience loss. The error isn't in feeling fear when you face danger. These responses are appropriate, they're human, they're real.
The error is in believing these feelings indicate that something cosmically wrong has occurred, that the universe made a mistake, that reality failed in its duty to protect you. Even the figures we call monsters throughout history, the ones whose names we don't speak, the dictators and murderers and architects of atrocity, they are natural phenomena. Not justifiable, not acceptable, not forgivable, but inevitable, products of the same cause and effect chains that produce saints and artists and heroes. The same neural architecture that creates compassion can create cruelty. The same social dynamics that build civilizations can destroy them. The same intelligence that discovers penicillin can engineer genocide. Feeling revulsion toward these figures is human, it's appropriate, it's necessary for maintaining the social bonds that keep us from becoming them. Understanding their inevitability is transcendence. It's recognizing that under the right conditions, with the right genetics, the right environment, the right cascade of experiences, any human template can produce any outcome. This doesn't absolve responsibility, doesn't eliminate the need for justice, doesn't mean we shouldn't stop harm when we can. But it does mean we can stop being surprised when humans do terrible things, stop acting shocked when violence emerges, stop pretending that evil is some external force that invades otherwise good people. And here's the liberation you didn't know you needed. While you are completely identified with your story, you'll suffer. While you believe you are only your ego, only your narrative, only your accumulated experiences and traumas and memories, you'll drown in it. Every setback will feel like annihilation. Every loss will feel like death. Every failure will feel like proof that you shouldn't exist. But freedom isn't escaping life. You can't escape. The body will continue until it doesn't. The mind will generate thoughts until it stops. Emotions will arise until they don't. Freedom is seeing it from outside while you're still inside. It's playing the game knowing it's a game. It's feeling the pain while knowing pain doesn't define the totality of what you are. It's experiencing the story while recognizing you're not just the character. You're also the page, the ink, the space between the words.
Self-awareness is a blade with two edges. It can destroy you, or it can liberate you. Most humans live somewhere on the spectrum between these two extremes, occasionally catching glimpses of liberation before crashing back into identification. You are not your name. That's just a sound pattern people use to get your attention. You're not your history. That's just a collection of memories, most of them edited, distorted, incomplete. You're not your achievements. Those are just outcomes of actions taken under specific conditions. You're not your failures. Those are just moments when your actions didn't produce desired results. You're not your pain. That's just a signal, a biological alarm system, a messenger you've confused with the message. These are just the coordinates of a local perspective, a temporary viewpoint in a process much older and much vaster than your individual consciousness. You are something far more ancient. You are the universe observing itself through a brief aperture of awareness. Every atom in your body has existed for billions of years. The matter that makes you has been countless things before. Stardust, ocean water, dinosaur bone, plant tissue, other humans. The universe has been looking through eyes for as long as eyes have existed. Your eyes are just the latest pair. And when that aperture closes, when your particular pattern dissolves back into the raw materials of existence, nothing will have gone wrong. Nothing will need to be fixed. The universe will continue, indifferent, perfect in its neutrality. And you were never a mistake. You were always just a temporary arrangement of matter that happened to be complex enough to wonder why it exists. There's a profound difference between what happens and what we think about what happens. The world moves through facts, the mind moves through interpretations, and almost all human suffering lives in that gap between the two. It rains, that's a fact. Water vapor condenses in the atmosphere, droplets form, gravity pulls them down, they hit surfaces. That's the complete story of rain. There's no intention behind it, no error, no message, no punishment, no blessing. The rain falls, period. The problem emerges afterward, when someone remembers the laundry on the line,
when the road floods and traffic stops, when the meeting gets delayed and schedules collapse, when plans shatter and disappointment blooms. None of that belongs to the rain. The rain didn't fail you. It didn't target you. It didn't inconvenience you. It simply fell. Your interpretation of what the rain means, what it ruins, what it prevents, that's where suffering lives. Reality is almost offensively simple, too simple for the human mind to accept. We're pattern recognition machines. We evolved to see connections, to predict outcomes, to create narratives that help us survive. But we become so good at this that we can't stop. We see patterns that don't exist. We predict outcomes that never arrive. We create narratives that have nothing to do with reality. A body gets sick, that's a fact. Cells malfunction, systems break down, pain signals fire. That's what's actually happening. A relationship ends, that's a fact. Two people stop choosing to maintain connection. Communication ceases, shared space dissolves. That's the reality. A plan collapses, that's a fact. Expected outcomes don't materialize, resources get reallocated, new actions become necessary. That's what occurred. But almost no one suffers from the fact itself. We suffer from the story we build around it. Why did this happen to me? What does this mean about who I am? What if I had noticed sooner? What if I had acted differently? What if this had been prevented? What if it never gets better? What if I'm always this broken? These what-ifs don't describe reality, they distort it. They take a simple fact and wrap it in layers of interpretation, meaning, self-judgment, future projection, past revision, until the original fact is barely visible beneath the weight of everything we've added to it. The universe doesn't operate in hypotheticals. It doesn't simulate alternate scenarios in some cosmic computer. It doesn't workshop possibilities before committing to outcomes. Everything that happens completely, without rough drafts, without alternate timelines, without regret. There is no universe somewhere else where different choices were made. There is only this one, unfolding in the only way it can unfold, given the initial conditions and the laws that govern it. Our habit of imagining parallel outcomes creates the illusion of error. We think it could have been different, and from that thought we conclude, therefore, something went wrong. But there is no error where there was no choice. And there was no choice, not really, not in the way we imagine. You think you chose to watch this, but you didn't. A complex web of prior causes led to this moment. Your neurology, your conditioning, your current emotional state, the algorithm that suggested this content, the person who shared it, the accumulated experiences that made you curious about these ideas. All of that determined this moment. You didn't choose it any more than you chose your genetics. Your mind looks backward and constructs a courtroom. It searches for defendants. It identifies mistakes. It rewrites history with better decisions, smarter moves, earlier interventions. But the past cannot be corrected because it was never incorrect. It simply was.
The only version of the past that ever existed is the one that led to right now. The same applies to the future. Thinking about it doesn't bring it closer. Anxiety doesn't prevent anything. Worry doesn't protect you. Planning helps action, yes, but worrying is just planning's neurotic cousin. These are attempts to negotiate with what doesn't exist yet, to control the uncontrollable, to make the universe promise that everything will be okay. But the universe doesn't make promises. Nature doesn't hurry to compensate anyone. It doesn't explain its processes. It doesn't console the creatures caught in its machinery. It doesn't distinguish between fair and unfair, deserved and undeserved, too much and too soon. It simply maintains motion, continuation, transformation. A tree falls in the forest, maybe from age, maybe from disease, maybe from a storm. It crashes down, crushing saplings beneath it. Is that unfair to the saplings? A river floods beyond its banks. Water surges into homes, ruins possessions, displaces families. Is that cruelty from the river? An animal dies of infection. Bacteria overwhelms its immune system. It suffers for days before finally succumbing. Is that punishment? There's no malfunction in any of these processes, no deviation from natural law, no cosmic mistake being made. The malfunction is in demanding human meaning from a system that was never human. The idea that something shouldn't have happened is a projection, not an observation. Everything that occurs because it could occur and nothing prevented it. This isn't cruelty, this is absolute neutrality. Humans create problems because we need to feel central. We need events to acknowledge our desires. We need reality to care about our preferences. When it doesn't, when things happen that contradict what we want, we feel betrayed, personally attacked, singled out by an unfair universe. But the universe doesn't respond to expectations. It responds only to its own laws. Gravity doesn't care if you want to fly. Thermodynamics doesn't care if you want perpetual motion. Biology doesn't care if you want to live forever. These laws simply are. They govern everything equally. They play no favorites. There is no delay in reality. There's only the time things take. There's no injustice in nature. There's only consequence following cause. There's no error in what occurs. There's only discomfort in the observer who wanted something else. Suffering grows when we confuse discomfort with failure, limitation with punishment, fact with personal offense. The rain isn't against you. Time isn't conspiring. The world isn't reacting to you. It's just continuing its impersonal unfolding, the same unfolding that was occurring before you were born and will continue after you die. Thought tries to fix what's already concluded, and it exhausts itself in the attempt. The body experiences that exhaustion as anguish, as tension, as the specific flavor of depletion we call existential dread. All of it stems from one impulse, wanting reality to be different than it is. When that impulse is abandoned, not through force, but through exhaustion, through finally recognizing its futility, something quiets. Not because everything improves, your circumstances might not change at all, but the mind stops fighting what has already occurred. And in that cessation of fight, there's a strange peace. Reality doesn't demand understanding, it only demands presence. It doesn't offer acceptance in an emotional sense, but it offers no alternative to what is. You can mentally reject reality all you want. Reality continues unchanged by your rejection. Maybe maturity isn't learning to understand the world. Maybe it's learning to stop accusing it. Stop putting the universe on trial for crimes it doesn't have the capacity to commit. The universe doesn't explain itself, doesn't defend itself, doesn't justify itself. It continues. And everything we call a problem is just the human echo trying to argue with something that never responds. And when that echo finally falls silent, when you stop demanding that reality apologize for being what it is, what remains isn't meaning and isn't answer, it's silence. And strangely, surprisingly, it's sufficient. That silence contains everything: the question and the absence of answer, the pain and the space around it, the self and the recognition that self is just another temporary pattern. Nothing is resolved, but somehow nothing needs to be.